Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is Cresyx Deep Dive, episode 006. Today we're plunging into a topic that's quickly becoming make or break for any organization scaling AI. Governance and prompt design, how to create policies, permissions, and guardrails so AI stays trusted at scale. Sounds a bit technical maybe, but the implications are truly fascinating for all of us.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really crucial topic. Anyone navigating the world of scaling AI responsibly needs to get a handle on this, whether you're a founder, maybe a policymaker, or simply curious about how we can actually build trust in these incredibly powerful systems.
Awesome.
So today, we're going to explore why prompt governance is so vital. We'll look at the foundational role of clear policies, permissions, the absolute necessity of robust guardrails, and then we'll dive into some practical steps you can take, to ensure AI remains trustworthy at scale. It's really about building a future where innovation and reliability can go hand in hand.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Generative AI models, especially things like large language models, well, they've integrated into organizations at lightning speed, haven't they?
Unbelievably fast.
They offer huge opportunities. We're talking enhancing content quality, boosting productivity, maybe by up to 25% in some cases. But with this incredible power comes a whole new set of risks. What are some of these fundamental challenges making governance such an imperative?
Well, what's fascinating here, I think, is that Gen AI introduces these novel risks, things not really seen before at this kind of scale. We're talking about the generation of incorrect or even sometimes harmful content. That phenomenon most people know as hallucination, right? Where the AI produces plausible, but just factually incorrect information.
Yeah, sounds plausible, but isn't right.
Exactly. And this isn't just a minor glitch. It can lead to really bad decisions, serious reputational damage for companies, and even thorny legal issues like copyright infringements popping up. The autonomy and, let's be honest, the often opaque nature of these models, especially the massive foundation models, it just makes controlling their output quality incredibly complex for any organization.
That is a huge challenge, especially when employees are increasingly interacting directly with these tools. It's part of their daily workflow now.
Yeah.
We're seeing this kind of bottom-up deployment dynamic where individual employees are accessing and using Gen AI independently, sometimes even creating and sharing their own quick applications built on top of it. What does this mean for, traditional organizational control, and more importantly, for managing risk?
Yeah, that creates a significant shift, doesn't it? When employees are effectively becoming prompt engineers, maybe even developers with just a few clicks.
Right, the lines blur.
The lines between traditional roles just blur dramatically. And we've seen real-world examples like Samsung employees inadvertently leaking confidential data into ChatGPT while they were debugging code. And that data could then potentially be used for future model training. So you see these significant risks around intellectual property leakage, privacy.
That's huge.
It really underscores the necessity to sort of reevaluate existing AI governance frameworks. They need to suit the unique demands of Gen AI. Our sources point out that responsible prompt engineering is emerging as this critical framework. It's about embedding ethical, legal, societal values directly into the AI interactions, moving way beyond just technical optimization. I mean, the core insight here is that unchecked enthusiasm. It can quickly undermine trust if you don't manage it proactively.
That Samsung example really hits home, doesn't it? It underscores the urgency. It seems clear that without proactive, human-led measures, the risks to trust, and really to the organization itself, can just multiply rapidly. So, okay, with that glaring problem in mind, what's the first foundational step? How do we reestablish control and start building that trust? Policies and permissions seem fundamental here. How do organizations set these up effectively for Gen AI?
Indeed. And our sources identify these procedural mechanisms as vital. These are basically the formal systems and rules an organization establishes to guide Gen AI usage, that first layer of trust. So this includes defining clear AI policies. These are the high-level guidelines establishing objectives, accountability, roles, responsibilities for using Gen AI.
Okay.
And it's not just about what not to do, right? It's also setting a strategic vision for how Gen AI will be integrated responsibly. For instance, policies might say, okay, using ChatGPT to maybe improve a marketing text, fine, but using it for a patent application, strictly forbidden, because the IP leakage risks and the proprietary nature of that information are just too high.
That makes sense. And beyond just the internal rules and organization sets, there are also external factors, aren't there, like evolving legal frameworks, the Gen AI providers' own policies? You have to consider those too, correct?
Absolutely. Contractual and legal measures are critical here. You can't ignore them. Gen AI providers, they often have usage policies where, by default, your inputs and outputs might be used by them for further model improvements.
All right, you need to read the small print.
You really do. Organizations need to understand these agreements thoroughly and potentially prohibit employee use of certain models if sensitive data is involved. Then there's the whole ongoing, very complex debate about copyright, especially when these generative models might replicate protected works that were part of their, vast training data.
Yeah, that's tricky.
It is. For example, in the US, generative art created by non-human entities. Currently, it might not even be eligible for copyright protection. So this requires really careful compliance monitoring. You need to ensure you're adhering to both internal policies and these evolving external regulations, maybe even using separate AI models just to detect toxicity or policy violations in outputs. The key insight, I think, is that building trust requires this comprehensive legal and contractual foundation, not just having some internal guidelines written down somewhere.
That's definitely a lot to consider, especially with the legal side still shifting.
Yeah.
But I wonder, isn't there a risk here? If you have too many policies, too many guardrails, could that stifle the very innovation that makes Gen AI so exciting for organizations in the first place? How do you strike that crucial balance between control and, fostering a culture of beneficial experimentation?
That's an excellent point, and it's precisely where what our sources call relational mechanisms come in. This focuses on the human enablement side, on understanding, because policies are only effective if people actually understand them, follow them,
and buy into them.
Exactly, and if they feel empowered, not just restricted. This is where communication and training become paramount. It's crucial for organizations to train employees, train them in ethical awareness, critical thinking, so they assess AI outputs rather than just blindly trusting them, and make them acutely aware of the potential IP and privacy risks. This helps cultivate a culture of, let's call it, Gen AI literacy. It helps individuals navigate these new tools responsibly and, importantly, innovatively within those defined boundaries. The goal is really to inform and empower, turn employees into partners in governance rather than just enforcing rules from the top down.
Okay, so policies and training set the human rules. They build that essential literacy you mentioned. But these powerful AI models, they're operating at scale. They need more than just human oversight, right? How do we ensure the AI itself adheres to these rules, especially when it's generating content so rapidly, so autonomously? This sounds like we need to actively build guardrails into the AI.
Yes. And here's where it gets really interesting and quite technologically sophisticated. One of our sources introduces this concept of rails. Think of it as a strategic approach to actively directing the LLM's outputs, keeping them within predefined boundaries.
Rails, okay.
Yeah. Think of them as structured sets of rules or templates. Sometimes they're called canonical forms, basically. Pre-approved patterns or structures the AI is trained to stick to. They act like a scaffold for the model's responses. They dictate not just what the AI can say, but how it's lit, ensuring it aligns with organizational standards and ultimately trustworthiness.
Can you give us some maybe vivid examples of these rails in action? That concept sounds incredibly powerful.
Certainly. So you have things like topical rails. These are designed to keep the LLM focused strictly on a specified subject, prevent it from straying into irrelevant or maybe prohibited areas.
Keeps it on track.
Exactly. Then there are fact-checking rails. These actively guide the model towards using evidence-based responses, trying to reduce those inaccuracies, prevent the infamous hallucinations. And critically, you have jailbreaking rails. These deter the LLM from producing outputs that try to circumvent operational or ethical guidelines someone might try to trick it into crossing. Tools like Nemo Guardrails, for example, allow you to explicitly program an LLM to refuse to discuss certain topics, say politics, or maybe specific competitive strategies you don't want it talking about. It's a bit like, teaching a child not just what to say, but how to politely decline a tricky or inappropriate question.
That's fascinating. It really sounds like we're moving beyond just telling the AI what not to do and actually architecting its behavior more directly. What are some of the leading AI companies doing then? Are they implementing these kinds of protections directly into their offerings?
Yeah, our sources show that the major players are increasingly embedding protections into their generative AI features by default. It's becoming standard practice, and this represents a really proactive, multi-layered defense strategy. It includes developing sophisticated tools, huge data sets specifically to mitigate unfair bias in outputs. They're enlisting in-house and external experts for red teaming that's rigorously testing for vulnerabilities and weaknesses.
Trying to break it, essentially.
Trying to break it before someone else does, yeah.
Yeah.
And implementing extensive systems of classifiers to detect and prevent harmful content before it even reaches a user. They're also building specific, targeted safeguards for teens, for instance, limiting outputs related to sensitive topics like bullying or illegal substances. What's really insightful here is how these efforts represent baking governance into the AI's DNA right from development, rather than just bolting it on afterwards.
So these guardrails, they also extend to how the AI outputs are presented to us.
Mm-hmm.
To help us, the users, evaluate them critically. That transparency seems crucial for trust.
Absolutely. Providing that additional context for generative AI outputs is key. It empowers users and builds that external trust. So this includes features like about this result you might see in search, options to double-check responses in tools like Google Bard, and implementing things like metadata labeling and embedded watermarking with tools like Cynthiaid for images so you know if it's AI generated.
Other province.
Exactly. We're even seeing requirements now for advertisers to disclose when election ads include digitally altered or AI-generated material. And on the privacy front, systems are increasingly designed to be private by design, with safeguards like ensuring content from, say, workspace extensions in Bard isn't seen by human reviewers, isn't used for ads, isn't used to train the model further. This is all about making the AI's operations visible enough for you to make an informed judgment, even if the underlying model remains incredibly complex.
Okay, this all sounds like a pretty significant undertaking for any organization, but it's clearly essential if we want to maintain trust as AI scales. So for organizations, and maybe even for individuals using AI day to day, what are some tangible, practical steps they can take right now to improve prompt design and adhere to better governance?
Yeah, great question. For individuals, just mastering prompt engineering best practices is a fantastic start, especially looking at it through that governance lens. Our sources suggest a few things. First, putting instructions at the beginning of the prompt and separating them clearly, maybe using markers like hashtag, tag, tag, or triple quotes. It signals explicit boundaries and priorities to the AI.
Be clear up front.
Be very clear up front.
Yeah.
Second, be specific, descriptive, and detailed about the context you want, the outcome, even ethical constraints. So think beyond just write a poem. Maybe something like, write an inspiring poem about innovation at OpenAI, but avoid any controversial interpretations or IP concerns. Deliver it in the style of a contemporary poet, and clearly note the source if you use one.
Much more directive.
Much more. Third, articulate the desired output format using clear examples. Showing the model what you want makes a huge difference in controlling its structure and content, aligning it with your governance needs. Fourth, reduce fluffy and imprecise descriptions. Instead of saying, write a few sentences only, not too much more, state clearly. Use a 3 to 5 sentence paragraph. Precise control.
Got it.
And finally, say what to do instead of just what not to do. Guide the model positively towards the desired policy-compliant outcomes.
That's helpful framing.
And we also saw some more advanced techniques going beyond just basic instructions. There's something called self-consistency. That's where the AI generates multiple answers to the same query and then compares them to find the most credible one, like cross-referencing its own work to improve reliability. There's also reflection, where the LLM critically reviews its own outputs against a set of criteria for accuracy, appropriateness. It acts like its own internal editor, trying to ensure compliance. And for really critical factual accuracy, retrieval-augmented generation, RAG, is vital. This dynamically incorporates external, up-to-date knowledge. It searches external databases, ensuring the AI isn't just relying on its possibly outdated internal training data, but can access and cite current facts.
Well, pulls in fresh info.
Exactly. The core insight here, I think, is that mastering prompt engineering isn't just about getting a good answer anymore. It's about actively co-governing the AI. It makes you, the user, a vital part of its safety and reliability mechanism.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. Okay, so that's for individuals. What about for organizations trying to implement this more holistically, trying to weave governance into their entire AI strategy? What are the bigger structural pieces they need to put in place?
Right. Moving to that broader organizational view. The need for a holistic approach brings us to structural mechanisms. These are the established frameworks, the dedicated roles within an organization specifically to manage Gen AI. This means establishing clear roles and responsibilities, maybe designating an AI risk officer or an ethics officer, forming multidisciplinary committees with people from domain expertise, ethics, legal, AI experts, all working together.
Getting all the perspective.
Getting all the perspectives. They also need to foster a culture that consciously balances that drive for innovation and experimentation with rigorous risk mitigation. It's a balancing act. And this, again, means developing employees' Gen AI literacy. That includes critical thinking, a clear awareness of AI's capabilities and its limitations, and those practical prompt engineering skills we just talked about. The ultimate goal is organizational governance alignment, making sure that even those bottom-up initiatives we mentioned earlier actually align with firm-level concerns and values, balancing opportunities with the risks, ideally for the benefit of society as a whole.
This deep dive into governance in prompt design, it really highlights just how much the landscape of AI is evolving. It seems clear that building trust at scale isn't just about the models themselves. It's about the thoughtful, proactive creation of policies, permissions, and these sophisticated guardrails, both human and technical.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the ability of AI to learn from human feedback, to self-correct through reflection, to be guided by these explicit rails, it poses a powerful question for you listening right now. As AI systems become more autonomous, more adept at what we might even call self-governance, how do you think our human role and oversight in design needs to evolve? Do we become more like architects? Or maybe more like ongoing ethical coaches? How do we ensure they remain truly trustworthy and aligned with our values?
That's a huge question, one that will undoubtedly shape our future. And it's a perfect thought to leave you with until our next deep dive. If you've been enjoying the deep dive, please don't forget to subscribe. And maybe share it with someone who cares about the future of AI.
Next time, we'll be taking a closer look at AI agents, how they're evolving, and what that means for the way we work and build. It's another shift that will demand some very careful governance thinking.
It's going to be a fascinating conversation, so stay tuned and remember.
Until next time, stay curious, stay human.